for example, retaliated by announcing 15% tariffs on chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton imports from the United States. They also announced a 10% tariff.
A new storm is brewing on the global trade scene. Economic tensions between Canada and China have spread on a wide front, from electric vehicles to agricultural products.
A 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles, and a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum.
The Canadian government imposed 100% tariffs on electric vehicles and 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from China. While this move dealt a major blow to Chinese producers, Beijing responded without delay.
China plans to levy a 15% tariff on them.
China retaliated by imposing additional tariffs on agricultural and food products imported from Canada. So how are Canada's harsh tariffs against China changing the Chinese economy, and how will they affect the Canadian economy? Is there a possibility of a bigger Chinese response? Is this a move by Canada to strengthen its trade bloc with the United States? Let us explore the answers to these questions and the shift in global trade balances. But first, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the latest developments in the trade wars. If you are ready, let us take a look at the biggest break in the Canada-China trade friction. Canada's imposition of a 100% tariff on electric vehicles from China has completely changed trade relations between the two countries. Yes, it sounds incredible. From Tesla's Shanghai factory to Chinese brand BYD, this new tariff is a big break for many electric vehicles. Moreover, Canada has imposed additional tariffs on China, not only on vehicles, but also on steel and aluminum products. Ottawa, which has long maintained a soft profile in the rules-based international trade order, surprised everyone this time with a hard line.
A 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles.
In an official statement on August 26, 2024, the Canadian Prime Minister said, "We will not tolerate dumping practices that jeopardize the sustainability of our economy. Some electric vehicles imported from China are causing unfair competition. Therefore, we have to impose an additional tax of 100%. He had created an agenda in the world press with his sentence. Some experts say that China is pursuing an aggressive global growth strategy in the automotive sector, while Canada wants to protect its own electric vehicle production. On the other hand, the Chinese side does not hide that it is preparing for retaliation, saying such protectionist policies are against international trade norms. On March 18, 2025, with the latest decision announced, China signaled that it would impose additional taxes on agricultural products from Canada, dealing a heavy blow to the food sector. So, where could this really lead? Electric vehicles are the fastest growing sector of our time, are they not? Governments are trying to phase out fossil fuel cars in the face of climate change and carbon emissions. In this environment, China is flooding the world with electric vehicles thanks to its ability to produce them quickly and cheaply. Even last year, China exported hundreds of thousands of EVs to Europe. Canada, on the other hand, wants to strengthen its own manufacturers and investment projects. New electric car factories are being built, especially in Ontario, and huge incentives for batteries and battery raw materials are on the agenda. Because, Canadian officials argue, China's subsidized and dumping policy is killing competition. The result, the extraordinary measure of 100% tariffs. One cannot help but wonder if they would really go that far. The Chinese side is not sitting idle. As one of the giants of world trade, it responds with the rhetoric, "If you impose extra tariffs on us, we will take countermeasures against you." On March 8, 2025, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce announced that it would impose a new tariff package on agricultural products from Canada. This was described as retaliation against the Canadian government's unjust tariff decisions. China was a major export market for Canadian farmers, especially in agriculture and food. Rapeseed canola, grains, meat products, and fisheries products are among Canada's top exports to China. Now, tariffs on these products could seriously hurt Canadian producers. Do you think this is the fuse of a trade war? However, we see that Canada has imposed additional taxes not only on electric vehicles, but also on steel and aluminum products. With a tariff increase of 25% on aluminum and steel, Chinese products are almost blocked. The overcapacity of steel production in China is distorting global prices, some sources say. Canada's move is reminiscent of the United States imposing additional tariffs on steel and aluminum imports years ago. As you may recall, Similar measures were implemented during Donald Trump's 2 terms, citing America's security interests. Now, Canada seems to be returning to a similar strategy after having objected to United States policies for a long time. And here's the thing, have you noticed? Canada is usually known for its more moderate trade policies, but now they are taking a whole new hard line. At the same time, Ottawa has planned a special arrangement called the Customs Exemption Process to protect Canadian businesses. Announced on October 7, 2024, it gives flexibility to selected companies or importers in critical sectors. So they say, if you need certain Chinese goods, apply for them and you will get the right to be exempt from these tariffs. This seems to be a kind of fine-tuning mechanism. According to a statement from Canada's Department of Economic Affairs, we are not closing the doors completely, but we are vigilant against dumping. So how functional do you think this exemption process will be? The reaction from China's side is clear. Canada is both imposing duties and opening the door to exemptions. What does this mean other than trying to strengthen its hand at the trade bargaining table? Some Chinese officials also said, the additional taxes are ridiculous, but Canadian companies will still apply to us and ask for special permission. So Canada cannot act completely independently. This psychological duel may break out at some point. Already, China has announced that it will impose tariffs of 15 to 20% on Canadian agricultural products. It is also likely to tighten food safety inspections, putting Canadian exporters in a difficult position. According to data from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, in 2024, Canadian exports to China totaled around $7 billion. A significant portion of this was made up of products that already lacked competition in the United States and European Union markets. If the Chinese door closes, the damage to Canada could be huge. And here's the other thing, have you noticed? The electric vehicle issue reflects not only an economic, but also a geopolitical tug of war. North America and Europe want to protect themselves against China's fast-rising green technology sector. China's emergence as the world leader in batteries, solar energy, and electric vehicle components is triggering dependency concerns in Western countries. In a similar reflex, Canada is saying, we have our own lithium reserves, we can produce our own batteries. Why should we keep our market open to cheap EVs from China? Moreover, new battery factories are being built in the provinces of Ontario and Quebec, and partnerships are being signed with major automakers. Canada is turning to a let us build our own capacity rather than outsource it and pay for it approach. Do you think this can be successful in the long run? China's position is also complicated. They say, we are at the forefront of the electric vehicle revolution, our battery technologies are strong, we have a price advantage. We are gaining market share all over the world. If Canada or any other country is going to block us, we will punish them in agricultural products or other items. Where do you think this showdown will lead? The picture is similar to that of the United States-China trade war. China does not want to be left behind in the struggle for global hegemony. Canada, on the other hand, is trying to get rid of its technology dependence by taking a close stance with the United States and Europe. Some say this is the first time Canada has taken such a tough stance. So a new era in trade is beginning. According to official data, the Canadian government says steel imports from China will be around $1.2 billion in 2024. Aluminum imports are close to that amount. Now, if these imports face a 25% tariff, it could increase the cost of raw materials for Canadian industry. In other words, cost increases are possible in many sectors such as automobile parts, airplane components, construction materials. In fact, Canadian business representatives have expressed their concern. If we have to pay these tariffs, we will not be able to import goods from China. And domestic production is not enough yet. What are we going to do? This is where the customs exemption process comes into play. There is a lot of bureaucratic burden. It is unclear who will qualify and who will be disqualified, some say. When you see this picture, you might say, Canada is playing a great game of chess, but it is challenging its own economy with every move. On the other hand, China's latest move, agricultural tariffs, has also made Canadian farmers nervous. Canola exports in particular are critical for Canada. If China restricts the purchase of this product, Canadian farmers could suffer millions of dollars in losses. In a similar crisis in 2019, import restrictions were imposed from the Chinese side. Canola prices fell, and there was a big conflict. Now a similar scenario seems to be looming again. We are diversifying our markets to China, said the Canadian Agriculture Minister, pointing to Japan, South Korea, or the Middle East. But this transition is not that easy. China is a huge buyer. And then there is this. Have you noticed? Canada sometimes gets into agricultural disputes with the United States too. So they are a country that cannot fully rely on anyone. Taking on China, the world's second-largest economy, is considered a bold move for a country of 38 million people like Canada. Some say Canada is at the United States' beck and call. While Washington is engaged in geostrategic competition with China, Canada is taking the opportunity to make its own protectionist moves. Others say this is an independent decision by the Trudeau government or its successor, because China's trade practices are really unfair. We do not know which is true, but tensions in Canada-China relations are certainly escalating. Will the diplomatic ties between the two countries weaken further? Yes. If trade gets this tough, diplomacy could also become very difficult. A 100% tariff sounds extreme. Although Canada says, we will offer exemptions where necessary, the general directive is tough. China intends to respond in kind. We are already seeing additional tariffs on agricultural products. Tomorrow, China could impose tariffs on Canadian wood products, paper, or minerals. Could this be a growing trade conflict in a tit-for-tat cycle? Maybe they will come to the table and agree. But judging by the statements since the beginning of 2025, neither side seems willing to back down. In the international arena, there are those who say Canada was very moderate for a long time, but now its patience has run out. In the electric vehicle sector, a 100% tax could be a real game changer. When Model 3S, produced in Tesla's Shanghai factory, or Chinese brands such as BYD and NIO entered Canada, they were unrivaled in terms of price advantage. Now, these vehicles will cost Canadian consumers almost twice as much. Chinese manufacturers may threaten, we may withdraw from the Canadian market. The EV market in Canada is not yet fully saturated, but it has significant potential to grow. Who will fill this market share? Perhaps European EVs, perhaps Canadian assembly plants, perhaps EVs from the United States. Still, would the consumer suffer if price competition is disrupted? On the other hand, Canada has lithium and other critical mineral resources. China is known for its investments in this field. If you remember, Chinese companies were becoming partners in mining projects in Canada. Now, the Ottawa administration is working on laws like we will take control of our strategic mines. We do not want foreign control. This could create new conflicts with China. Some observers say the real target is not electric vehicles but critical mines. Canada is trying to keep China out of this area. That is why the tax on EVs appears on the surface to be a tax on EVs, but in reality it could be a strategic move. With global supply chains so intertwined, protectionist measures of this scale could cause major problems in the long run, trade experts warn. This is the nature of trade wars. One side raises tariffs, the other retaliates, then a third sector is added, and the snowball grows. Canadian farmers are already complaining, while Chinese EV manufacturers have had to revise their future plans. Some might say, the Canadian market is already small, it does not matter. But remember, Canada is a G7 country, integrated with the huge North American market via the United States and Mexico. Chinese brands could enter Canada and reach the United States market from there. If this door is now closed, the balance of global competition may change. Perhaps Canada is taking precautions to prevent Chinese brands from crossing from us to the United States. Such a complex chess move will not show its results in the short term. Businesses are worried, of course. There are many companies that produce by importing cheap steel, aluminum, or electric vehicle components. Additional tariffs could weaken their competitiveness. And let us not forget that Canada ranks China high on the list of countries with which it does the most trade. The United States ranks first, China is in the second or third place. So it is not easy to say, let us close the doors completely. Do you think Canada will get what it wants in this confrontation, or will China's counter steps prevail? Canadian officials say, what are we going to do if we do not protect our market? It is not possible to remain silent in the face of dumping games. China is launching a retaliatory strategy saying, suit yourself, we will impose barriers on your agricultural products. Perhaps this spark will ignite a wider trade war between the G7 and China. The European Union has also launched investigations into Chinese electric vehicles. The United States is already embroiled in trade disputes. It looks like we are entering a new era of what we will call green technology trade wars in 2025 and beyond. As electric vehicles replace coal and oil, the next generation industrial revolution is being shaped by such tensions. Now let us ask you, is Canada's move a shock or a bluff? Could a 100% tariff on electric vehicles be a move to reorganize world markets? Where do you think China's tariffs on Canadian agricultural products will lead? Will both countries suffer, or will they protect their own markets in the long run? Be sure to share your comments. We are curious about your views. Because the global economy has become such that an unexpected move can wake us up in the morning to a brand new crisis. Look, this escalation between Canada and China may be a turning point that will change the whole balance. What do you think about this? Stay tuned to our channel.